After working with hundreds of women with IBS, I've noticed something that used to frustrate me and now just makes me want to get this information out to as many people as possible. The mistakes keeping most women stuck are not random. They're not unique to each person. They're the same 5 mistakes showing up week after week. And every single one is fixable once you know what you're looking for. In the next few minutes, I'll walk you through the 5 most common mistakes I see women make when trying to treat IBS, what each looks like, why it keeps people stuck, and exactly what to do instead. If you've been in treatment without results, this will tell you why. And if you're just starting out, it will save you years. You're not lazy. You're not a hypochondriac. You are someone who has been given the wrong tools and the wrong information. The mistakes in this video are not character flaws, they're logical conclusions drawn from bad information. I'm Anelia, a board-certified physician assistant with 11 years in gastroenterology and holistic gut health. I've worked with hundreds of women with IBS, and the patterns are consistent enough that I can tell within the first conversation which of these mistakes someone is making. 5 mistakes, what they look like, why they happen, and what to do instead. Mistake number 1, taking probiotics without knowing what your microbiome looks like. This is the most common mistake I see, and in many ways the most costly because it is done with the best intentions based on advice that is well-meaning but incomplete. What this mistake looks like: purchasing a high-quality, well-reviewed probiotic supplement, taking it consistently because gut health recommendations almost universally include probiotics, experiencing significant worsening of symptoms, more bloating, more urgency, more gas, more constipation if you go the other way, either concluding the strain was wrong and trying a different one, or pushing through assuming it's an adjustment period. Why this mistake happens? Probiotics are recommended for IBS as a general category without first looking at the microbiome. There are certain good bacteria that if there are too many in the gut, they can actually cause inflammation. So taking a probiotic blindly can make this much worse. Additionally, some good bacteria can increase or decrease motility. So when dealing with either constipation or diarrhea and you're taking the wrong probiotic, you can make those issues much worse. A probiotic that makes you significantly worse is not something to push through. It is a diagnostic signal telling you something specific about what is happening in your gut. What to do instead? Before starting any probiotic, have a full analysis of your microbiome with comprehensive stool testing first. Then you can guide probiotic choice more accurately. Probiotics without testing is guessing. The second mistake is the same problem in a different form, and it keeps women restricted for years. Mistake number 2. Staying on a low FODMAP diet indefinitely without investigating why it works. Low FODMAP is one of the most widely recommended dietary approaches for IBS and one of the most widely misused. The mistake is not using it. The mistake is staying on it long term without using the information it provides. What this mistake looks like: starting a low FODMAP and experiencing significant symptom relief, concluding the diet is working and continuing indefinitely. Never running testing to understand why it works, attempting to reintroduce foods and finding symptom return every time, concluding that the low FODMAP diet is just how life has to be. Why this mistake happens? When something reduces suffering, stopping feels counterintuitive. What most people are never told is that significant improvement on low FODMAP is not evidence that they've found the right diet. It is evidence that bacteria are fermenting food where they shouldn't be. Low FODMAP works by depriving those bacteria of fermentable carbohydrates. It does not remove the bacteria. It does not treat the overgrowth. It manages the symptom while the underlying condition continues. If low FODMAP works well for you, that does not prove you've found the solution. This is proof you need comprehensive testing to find what pathogens are living in your gut and having guided treatment to get rid of it. I have clients who arrive after 2, 3, 4 years of restricted eating on the low FODMAP diet. Their safe food list has gotten shorter every year. They have developed significant food anxiety. They're more restricted now than they have ever been because the underlying imbalance continued to progress while symptoms were managed. The diet gave them just enough relief to stop looking for the actual answer. What to do instead? Use low FODMAP as a short-term diagnostic and symptom management tool. for a maximum of 2 to 4 weeks as a standalone. Run comprehensive stool analysis during or immediately after the low FODMAP phase. Begin treatment based on what testing shows. Plan a systemic reintroduction from the beginning. The goal is always to expand the diet. Low FODMAP without a plan to investigate and get off of it is a long-term trap. The third mistake is one almost everyone with IBS has made because they were told to. Mistake 3. Treating IBS as a food problem when it is a gut imbalance problem. This mistake is so foundational. It underlies almost every other mistake on the list, and it is why most IBS management produces results that plateau. What this mistake looks like? Approaching IBS as a search for the right food to eat and the wrong foods to avoid. Building an increasingly detailed and restrictive list of safe and unsafe foods. Measuring progress by whether symptoms are reduced after meals. Never ask why certain foods trigger symptoms, only which ones do. Why this mistake happens? Food is the most visible and controllable variable in the gut. Every time a certain food causes a reaction, the logical conclusion is that the food is the problem. Certain foods do ferment more rapidly and aggravate existing imbalances, but the food is not the cause. The imbalance that makes the gut react to that food is the cause. Removing the food reduces the reaction without addressing why the reaction is happening. The gut becomes more reactive over time because the underlying dysfunction progresses unchecked. The food is the trigger. The imbalance is the cause. Treating the trigger while the cause remains is why the list of safe foods keeps getting shorter. The clients with the most restricted diets are almost always those who have been treating IBS as a food problem the longest. Karina, for example, she was vegan, eating one of the cleanest diets I've ever seen. She had virtually no foods she felt safe with when she came to me. Her diet was impeccable. The gut was completely dysregulated. The food was not the problem. What was living in her gut was. What to do instead? Shift the question from what foods are causing my symptoms to what imbalance is making my gut react to these foods. Use dietary changes as a supportive tool within treatment, not as a treatment itself. Recognize that the goal is to support healing, not permanently avoid every reactive food. Get testing that identifies the imbalance. Then the dietary piece becomes clear and targeted. Treating it as a food problem keeps you chasing triggers. The fourth mistake happens inside the medical system, and understanding it is one of the most empowering things I can share. If you're recognizing one or more of these mistakes as your own experience, hit subscribe. I put out videos every week showing you exactly what to do instead of staying stuck. Now let's finish with the final two mistakes. These are the ones that tend to keep people stuck the longest. Mistake 4. Trusting a normal colonoscopy to mean nothing is wrong within your gut. This mistake is not the patient's fault. It is the natural result of being told that a normal colonoscopy means the gut is fine. Understanding the limits of that test is essential for knowing why to keep looking. What this mistake looks like. Receiving a normal colonoscopy result and concluding the gut has been thoroughly investigated. Stopping the search for a cause because the test came back normal. Accepting the IBS label as a complete explanation rather than a starting point. Not pursuing functional testing because the conventional workup has been done. Why this mistake happens? A colonoscopy is presented as a definitive gut investigation. It is sophisticated and genuinely important. Most people have no reason to know it was designed for structural disease, cancer, polyps, and inflammatory bowel disease, not for the functional conditions that drive IBS. When it comes back normal, the reasonable conclusion is that nothing is wrong. What the test actually shows is that nothing structurally is wrong. The functional picture remains completely unexamined. What a normal colonoscopy does not assess: SIBO, not visible on a colonoscopy; dysbiosis, not assessed by a colonoscopy; digestive enzyme function, not measured by a colonoscopy; gut lining permeability, not identified by a colonoscopy; motility dysfunction, also not evaluated by a colonoscopy. A normal colonoscopy is the beginning of the IBS investigation, not the end of it. Every woman who has stopped looking because her colonoscopy was normal has stopped one step too early. In 11 years of gastroenterology, I have seen thousands of colonoscopies. They're excellent at what they do. What they do is not investigate the cause of IBS. The women who received a normal colonoscopy result and accepted the IBS label without further investigation were not wrong to trust the system. The system just didn't tell them the whole story. That story is what functional testing tells. And most of the women I work with are hearing it for the first time when they come to me. What to do instead? Treat a normal colonoscopy as confirmation that structural disease has been ruled out, but not as a complete investigation. Move to functional testing, SIBO breath test, comprehensive stool analysis, digestive function assessment, intestinal permeability markers. Find a practitioner who works with these tests regularly and knows what to do with them. A normal colonoscopy is not the finish line. The fifth mistake ties all the others together, and it's the one causing the most long-term damage. Mistake number 5, managing symptoms while the root cause continues to progress. This is the mistake that underlies all the others. It is the cumulative result of probiotics without testing, low FODMAP without investigation, treating it as a food problem, and accepting a normal colonoscopy as a complete answer. What this mistake looks like? A combination of dietary restriction, supplements, and medications that keep symptoms manageable. A gradual worsening over months and years. More foods triggering reactions, more situations that feel unsafe, more reliance on management tools that become less effective. A quiet acceptance that this is just life now. Why this mistake happens? When something reduces suffering, it is rational to continue it. The problem is that managing symptoms while the cause continues is like taking painkillers for an infected tooth. The pain becomes bearable, but infection progresses. The longer an underlying imbalance goes unaddressed, the more damage accumulates to the gut lining, the microbiome, and the digestive function that should be restoring itself. What might have taken 6 weeks to treat in year 1 can take significantly longer in year 5. Managing symptoms is not neutral. Every month the underlying cause goes untreated, the gut environment gets harder to restore. The cost of waiting is not just more suffering, it is more damage to undo. The clients who take the longest to fully recover are almost always those who manage successfully for the longest period before seeking root cause treatment. Not because healing is impossible, it always is. But years of management while an imbalance progresses means there is more to address. Leaky gut present for 5 years requires more restoration than leaky gut present for 6 months. The treatment works either way. The timeline is longer. What to do instead? Recognize the difference between feeling better and being better. Management produces the former, treatment produces the latter. Use symptom management tools as bridges to root cause treatment, not as a destination. Set a clear intention to move from management to investigation, and hold to it even when management is working well enough. Find a practitioner oriented toward root cause, not symptom suppression. A test for tonight. A 5-question self-audit. How long have you been managing your IBS without a root cause diagnosis? Has your symptom picture gotten better, worse, or more complicated over the past 2 years? Have your management strategies become more restrictive or more numerous over time? Do you know the specific cause of your IBS, not the label, the actual underlying imbalance? Have you had a comprehensive stool analysis in the last 12 months? If your honest answers reveal years of management, a worsening picture, and no root cause investigation, you now know exactly what the next step is. Not a new supplement, not a restrictive diet, the investigation that finally tells you what you're dealing with. None of these mistakes are character flaws. Every single one is the logical result of following the advice most available to women with IBS. Advice that is well-intentioned but incomplete. Now you have the complete picture. You know what the mistakes are, why they happen, and what to do instead. The women who heal from IBS are the ones who tried the hardest. They're the ones who finally got the right information and acted on it. That is exactly what you now have. If you want the complete picture of what IBS actually is, what causes it, and the full treatment framework from testing to recovery, I made a comprehensive guide covering all of it in one video. It's the most complete resource I've put together on this topic. That's the one to watch next. Linked in the description and on your screen now.